In Bolivia, the Supreme Electoral Court closed the candidate registration process for the general elections of August 17th. The World Health Organization adopted a landmark pandemic agreement for tackling outbreaks of disease after more than 3 years of negotiations. And according to the UN humanitarian coordinator Tom Fletcher, 14,000 babies in Gaza have just 48 hours left to live if Israel continues to delay the entry of aid. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Bolivia, the Supreme Electoral Court closed the candidate registration process for the general elections of August 17th, with a total of 10 registered candidates representing 10 political forces, including parties and alliances. Among the candidates stand out figures such as Eva Copa, the only woman in the race, nominated by the National Renewal Movement, Morena. Also registered were businessman Samuel Doria Medina for Unidad Alliance, former President Jorge Tuto Quiroga for Libre Alliance, and former Minister Eduardo del Castillo for Movement for Socialism. Former President Evo Morales could not register since, according to the highest electoral body, his candidacy did not meet the eligibility requirements. In this context, the Chamber Secretary of the Supreme Electoral Court, Fernando Arteaga, informed that the Constitutional Chamber of Beni will decide on Wednesday, May 21st, if the Popular Alliance Party duo of Andrónico Rodríguez and Mariana Prada can be registered.
You will remember that afternoon we informed that the Third System Movement and the alliance that was formed by the Popular Alliance had already registered candidates in the system and that the reception of documents was pending, which has been processed according to the procedure established for this process of registration of candidacies. What has the court determined? To comply with the precautionary measure. Therefore, the reception of lists and documents that has been received is being suspended until the Constitutional Chamber of the Beni Court decides what corresponds to do in the hearing of May 21.
And the President of Ecuador, Daniel Noboa, sent an urgent economic bill to the National Assembly entitled to disarticulate the criminal economy linked to the internal armed conflict. However, several analysts denounced that this bill would blow up several constitutional rights. Our colleague Gabriela Mena with the details.
The President
of Ecuador submitted a new urgent economic bill, which, according to the executive, is intended to dismantle the criminal economy linked to the internal armed conflict. Several analysts agree with this, rejecting the document, starting with the fact that it covers security issues that violate rights, but it is not about economics.
Es decir, usted tiene una serie de violaciones.
That is to say, it has a series of violations to constitutional guarantees that have been established, and that have been established with certainty, and that come even from centuries ago.
Desde hace siglos atrás, que son conquistas en el tema de garantizar las libertades y la protección de la integridad.
These are conquests in the matter of guaranteeing the freedoms of the protection of people's integrity. This denaturalizes the subject of a bill on matters of economic urgency. That is to say, yes, it is being misused by the executive for the benefit of complying with the introduction of this regulation.
De cumplir con la introducción de estas normativas.
Por lo que destaca, debería este proyecto ser archivado por el Consejo de Administración.
Therefore, this project should be filed by the Legislative Administration Council, which has the decision to decide whether or not this document should be dealt with within the Parliament. For the constitutionalist, Alberto Montenegro, the Assembly is a body without nuances, without weights and counterweights, for which reason the project will surely be passed.
Yo pensaría que
I would think that they would try to avoid a pronouncement against it for any other repercussion and to avoid any kind of setbacks within the legislature.
Para evitar cualquier tipo de contratiempos dentro del legislativo, ¿no?
It is going to be a state policy. Everything included in this regulation is going to be the way they are going to act during all these 4 years, persecuting, locking up.
Todos estos 4 años, persiguiendo, encerrando.
Pero ¿Cuáles son los principales puntos que preocupan a los analistas? Para empezar, en este
But what are the main points of concern for analysts? To begin with, this document's articles violate the constitutional right to the inviolability of the home because, if approved, a court order would no longer be required for searches, nor for seizure and confiscation. In addition, this project violates the constitutional presumption of innocence with the introduction of the categories of suspect or military objective to motivate actions by security agencies.
Sospechoso u objetivo militar para motivar actuaciones de órganos de seguridad.
Prácticamente un retroceso, pero también
Practically speaking, this is a step backwards, but they are also measures that, by limiting the exercise of rights, give the government in power an open hand so that it can use these situations, not only with organized crime groups, but also with opposition groups.
organizadas, sino también con grupos opositores.
Otro de los puntos que genera preocupación de
Another point of concern within this project is that, according to analysts, it will allow impunity for the national police and the armed forces because they could continue in service, without preventive detention or house arrest while an investigation against them continues.
Continúa una investigación en su contra.
La fuerza pública va a abusar bajo todo.
The public force is going to abuse under any kind of consideration. There will be no limits.
Porque lo grave, o una de las cosas más graves de esta ley, es que el presidente
Because the most serious aspect of this law is that the president, in advance or in anticipation,
presidenciales para aquellos funcionarios policiales y militares que en el marco de
will issue presidential pardons for those police and military officials who, within the framework of this law, may disappear or kill citizens.
desaparecer, matar a ciudadanos.
Sin embargo, lo que por ahora es un hecho es que en los próximos días el Consejo.
However, what is a fact for now is that in the next few days, the legislative will announce whether or not it will approve the urgent economic project. In case of being approved, the Assembly has 30 days to pronounce itself.
Gabriela Mena, teleSUR Ecuador.
Page at teleSUR English, you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. The World Health Organization adopted on Tuesday a landmark pandemic agreement for tackling outbreaks of disease after more than 3 years of negotiations. Hailed as a victory for public health by W.H.O.'s Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, the agreement aims to build on the lessons of COVID-19 and protect the globe from pathogenic threats. In this regard, Ghebreyesus highlighted the accords are a recognition by the international community that our citizens, societies, and economies must not be left vulnerable to suffer losses like those endured during COVID-19. Plans for a pandemic treaty were first announced in March 2021. It's worth highlighting that the United States will not be part of the agreement, having withdrawn from the WHO and negotiations after Donald Trump took office. The President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, assured U.S. President Donald Trump that his country is working towards a fair settlement of the conflict in Ukraine. This was confirmed by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sergei Lavrov, during an Orthodox Easter celebration event. The head of Russian diplomacy assured attendees that Moscow had only reaffirmed its position on the final settlement of a crisis that Moscow claims was created by the West. At the end of Monday's call, which lasted more than 2 hours, President Vladimir Putin described it as frank and informative. Moscow has reiterated its readiness to collaborate with Kiev on a memorandum for a future peace treaty. In this regard, on Tuesday, China's foreign ministry reaffirmed its support for direct dialogue and negotiations between Russia and Ukraine.
We noted the reports. China supports all efforts conducive to peace, direct dialogue and negotiations between Russia and Ukraine, and a political resolution to the crisis. We hope all parties can reach a fair, lasting, and binding peace agreement that is acceptable to all parties through dialogue and negotiation.
Chinese President Xi Jinping reaffirmed his commitment to promoting a high-quality development and enhancing governance efficiency in order to advance the country's modernization. During his visit to Henan province on Monday and Tuesday, President Xi Jinping inspected the region's economic zones and emphasized the importance of accelerating modernization to promote community development. He also emphasized that these processes would facilitate the growth of advanced manufacturing, enhance the protection and utilization of historical heritage, and promote the development of quality in cultural and tourism sectors. He said that China must be self-sufficient and master technologies, production, education, and research to advance further. And China transforms open-pit mining with artificial intelligence and advanced 5G network. Our colleague Evelyn Leiva traveled to Inner Mongolia and gives us the details.
La empresa china Huawei lidera una transformación tecnológica.
China's Huawei is leading a technological transformation with a comprehensive solution for autonomous mining at the Yimin mine in Inner Mongolia, where autonomous, remotely supervised electric trucks are already operating.
En realidad, Huawei y nuestros socios ofrecen una solución totalmente integrada para...
Huawei and our partners actually offer a fully integrated solution for open-pit mining. On the vehicle side, Huawei provides microwave radar, high-definition cameras, and an intelligent driving computing platform with artificial intelligence functions. On the network side, we deploy 5G, and here we implement a much more advanced option called 5G Advanced. Huawei also collaborates with the control center and cloud platform encompassing high-definition dispatching and mapping systems. Together with the end customer and partners such as truck manufacturers and network system integrators, we combine these components into a fully seamless autonomous driving solution. With the goal that there is no need for on-site personnel, everyone can monitor and control operations from an air-conditioned control center.
Y controlar las operaciones desde un centro de control con aire acondicionado.
Los vehículos diseñados sin cabina adelantan el
Vehicles designed without a cab are leading the way to a fully autonomous model. They can withstand extreme weather conditions and carry up to 90 tons, with a throughput 120% higher than that of conventional trucks.
En colaboración con Huawei, hemos implementado algoritmos de percepción.
In collaboration with Huawei, we have implemented perception algorithms based on real-world terrain conditions, capable of automatically identifying the state of the road. When the vehicle detects an obstacle, it autonomously executes a swerve maneuver, thus ensuring a stable and continuous travel. In addition, we have introduced an innovative vehicle design without an operator's cab as part of our comprehensive approach to autonomous driving.
Hemos introducido un diseño innovador de vehículos sin cabina de mando.
En China ya funcionan comercialmente más.
More than 2,000 autonomous units are already operating commercially in China. This experience opens doors to other regions of the world, including Latin America, where natural and operating conditions are similar.
En comparación con los yacimientos de América Latina,
In comparison with Latin American reservoirs, the characteristics of high water saturation and low resistance of its rock formations are very similar to those of that region. In this context, the key factor for the application of autonomous driving technology is its ability to adapt to the layout of the track where the work is being carried out.
de adaptación al trazado de la pista donde se realizan los trabajos. Creemos que en pocos años esta solución se convertirá en la opción principal para la
We believe that in a few years this solution will become the main option for open-pit mining. In Latin America, particularly in Brazil, mining companies are already evaluating its adoption, and we have had several conversations.
colaborativa, no solo de Huawei, participan socios como XMG en el lado del camión, operadores móviles en el de red y nuestros propios.
If Latin American companies want to consider these technologies, they can either opt for an integrated solution or local partners can consider opening up their protocols and systems.
Los socios locales pueden considerar abrir sus protocolos y sistemas.
Con esta experiencia en Mongolia Interior, China confirma su apuesta por una...
With this experience in Inner Mongolia, China reaffirms its commitment to safer and more efficient mining powered by artificial intelligence and 5G networks. Huining Ruchi's electric and autonomous trucks are a clear example of how technology is transforming the present and the future of the mining industry.
el presente y el futuro de la industria minera.
La cooperación entre empresas tecnológicas y el sector minero chino.
Cooperation between technology companies and the Chinese mining sector marks a path that Latin America is watching with interest because it is consistent with its development plans.
Desde Mongolia Interior, China, Evelyn Leiva, teleSUR.
We have a second short break coming up before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final break, we'll be right back. Welcome back. According to the UN Humanitarian Coordinator Tom Fletcher, 14,000 babies in Gaza have just 48 hours left to live if Israel continues to delay the entry of aid. Under pressure from his allies and other countries, Benjamin Netanyahu agreed to authorize the entry of 9 truckloads of aid. However, the UN says this is less than 2% of what is needed, and Netanyahu has only allowed 5 truckloads of aid so far. Meanwhile, Fletcher sent a message to the world saying that he wants to save as many babies as possible. He has the personnel and organized emergency strategy to distribute the aid. However, after 11 weeks of an ironclad blockade and delays imposed by the genocidal occupier, these delays have become a death sentence for children. And on Tuesday, Israel killed more than 60 Palestinians in Gaza since dawn. Medical authorities confirm a genocidal pattern. Most of the victims are women and children. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he will seize Gaza. Since then, the Israeli military has gone to the enclave. They are bailout because the forces assassinated the Abu family. Another bomb in the news said that 15 Palestinians were slaughtered, at least 7 were children. Killings continued throughout the enclave. Authorities reported more than 10 dead and many wounded in Han Yunis and Al Zaytun. Since October 7th, the occupation has killed more than 53,400 civilians and wounded more than 121,000. In Yemen, the Houthis announced a maritime blockade of the port of Haifa in response to Israel's ongoing genocide in Gaza. In a televised statement, Houthi military spokesman Yahya Sari warned that all companies with ships present in the port will be considered targets. The high official declared that the decision is in response to Israel's escalation against the Palestinian people and the attacks on Yemen. It is important to emphasize that the Houthis have remained firm in their position of defense of the Palestinian cause since the beginning of the Israeli genocide in October 2023.
In response to the Israeli enemy's escalation of its brutal aggression against our people, and in Gaza committing dozens of massacres daily and causing hundreds of casualties in an unprecedented act of genocide. And in response to the continued siege and starvation and the enemy's refusal to halt its aggression and lift the blockade. The Yemeni armed forces, relying on God and with his guidance, have decided to implement the leadership's directives to begin working to enforce a naval blockade of the port of Haifa. All companies with ships present in or heading to this port are hereby notified that, as of the time of this announcement, the aforementioned port has been included in the target bank. They must take into account what is stated in this announcement and any future statements.
Heavy rains swamped parts of India's tech capital, Bengaluru, killing at least 3 people and exposing long-standing infrastructure failures. The rapid growth of the southern city, dubbed India's Silicon Valley, has left many waterways covered over or used as dumps, leading to water stagnating every year during heavy rains. The city is on high alert for more pre-monsoon showers due to cyclonic formations over the Andaman Sea. 3 people, including a 12-year-old boy, were killed in rain-related incidents on Monday. Authorities say the city corporation has identified 210 flood-prone areas where they were working around the clock to rectify the situation. Many parts of the city received 100 millimeters of rain on Monday, a record since 2011. At this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.